All right, so how can you get a client to perceive your value, and how can you stop becoming a commodity? Because let's be honest, as a health professional, we fall into that boat, we fall into that struggle all the time. I know a heck of a lot do, and you might be one of them. And what happens is we cannot charge our worth. If we don't charge our worth, we constantly struggle between what price do we set to make a living, and at the same rate, still get clients to pay for our services, right? And this actually all started when we were in a Facebook thread, and somebody posted a comment, which was literally what I just went over, which is, hey, I've been thinking of reducing my rate for a bit now. Wanted to know what everyone's thoughts on the best rate that usually is successful to charge clients that is not only good for your business and making a living, but also a good range for clients to come to you. And this is, of course, under the assumption we clarified later that, she was thinking, hey, is there a specific price point that is comfortable for people to say yes to care? Like, oh yeah, I can afford that. And then also stay on, but at the same rate where I can get paid as a provider well enough to make a living. And I can tell you right now, price, the number, has nothing to do with it. Nothing to do with it. And I commented here, it's never the number of what people are paying, but the perspective of value of what they are paying for. Right? So in other words, price doesn't matter. Your value does. If you want to charge more, you got to find ways to get your patient to perceive your value is higher than others. But not only higher than others, but also is your value perceived higher than the price that you are charging, right? And the one thing I posted here, I think, which tugged on the emotional strings is I just don't like hearing someone has to lower their price, especially when you're probably worth that more. And it's the honest truth. I see so many people struggle with it. I struggle with it. But it's why a lot of us as providers, good providers, we just can't dig ourselves out of our own hole because of this. I can tell you because we're usually a commodity and we try to follow the processes and the protocols of all the other 99% that are maybe in insurance, in network, or struggling as well. So we're going to change that. So how do you get a client to perceive your value? How do you stop becoming a commodity? I want to go over 3 different things here. One is what you are doing wrong. This is actually going to be a huge mindset shift on several different components that we'll go over. Number 2 here is how to differentiate yourself. And number 3, action steps, because you've probably read or reviewed a whole lot of content. In the end, it only matters if you can take action, if you can take that next step, if you can make a change. So let's jump into what you're doing wrong. So what you're doing wrong here, and let me get this out of the way because we'll go over it in a second anyway. So first thing is you're going to be focusing on price. Now, most people focus on price. The individual in the comment focused on price. I focused on price at once. Excuse me. Problem with that is if you're focusing on price, if you are, then you're also at some point going to get your client focused on price. And we don't want them focused on price. We want them focused on value. The other thing is if you focus on price, you're also thinking about how you can compete. And the only way to compete is the lowest price, and that's a race to the bottom. So you want to separate yourself. You don't want to compete on price at all. You want to compete on value. You want to get that out of your head. Again, it's a mindset shift, right? Through school, we always focused on that. We focused on being a provider. The other is you assume your value. You might assume your value thinking, hey, you're a doctor. Hey, you've had years of experience, years of education, hundreds of thousands of dollars on education. You have certificates and numbers or letters after your name. Guess what? That means nothing, absolutely nothing to the client. The only thing that matters to the client, and you've heard this before, is can you help them with their specific problem? That's it. That's it. They don't know what the letters after your name stand for. They don't know how long you've become a doctor or you were a doctor. So every time a new client, a new lead comes in, you have to find a way to prove that to them. And that's what we're going to do. The other is you have a provider mindset. I know I had this as well, and excuse me, and there's several different ways to think about it. One is you have to go from a provider mindset to a business mindset. And you might have heard that before, but in detail, what that really means is as a provider, I see myself as maybe a chiropractor. The problem is if I see myself as a chiropractor, I see myself as a technician, but I'm also seeing myself like the rest of the chiropractors out there. But my job is to separate, differentiate myself from all the other chiropractors so I'm not a commodity. How do I do that? I need to get out of that provider mindset. I need to have more of an entrepreneurial, more of a business mindset. So now it allows me to understand what my trade is, chiropractic care, what my services are, what my value is, and how does that fit into the client's journey, or how does that fit into the community itself, right? It's a different angle, different position of thinking. The last thing here is you don't think about the customer journey. When we look at the customer journey, there's several different things from like they're situation aware, problem aware, solution aware, and then you're product aware, your service aware. And this is probably the biggest mistake I see health professionals make. And this is why a lot of times you have clients come in, but there's like some disconnect and they don't commit all the time, or they don't stay on, you're not retained very well. And there's this little bit of disconnect. And I'll give you an example, and it's usually because we do not meet them with where they are at in their journey. And a good example of this would be somebody comes in with, back pain or has back pain. Most of the time, as a therapist, it's like you're telling them they need this, but they're like, oh no, I need to go to my primary first, or I need to go get an x-ray or an MRI first. No, you don't, right? But that's what they think. Why is that? Why do they think you are not the fit? Why do they think you are not at the right time, or it's not needed, or they're not sure, they don't know, or you don't know? The reason being is because they are problem aware. They know they have a problem, so let's say back pain. The individual knows, I have back pain, I have a problem, I can't move, I can't run, I don't feel good, this hurts. They know they have a problem. What you do is you pitch them your service or your product. So your services, right? Saying, hey, adjustments can help. But they're like, well, maybe I should get an MRI or an x-ray first, or maybe I should see a primary first. Why? Because they don't know, they're not solution aware yet. So let me draw this up here. So here, they are problem aware. The next thing here is solution aware. Okay, and then after that is then specific product aware, or for us, services, right? We're not selling products, but product or service aware. And so what needs to happen if this individual has back pain here? I need to say, oh, you have back pain. He can't move well. He doesn't feel well. Okay, great. I'm a chiropractor and I actually help your low back pain go away. Now he's solution aware. Oh, I didn't know chiropractors do that. Now that he's solution aware, oh, chiropractors help with back pain? Yes, and how I help with that specifically are adjustments, soft tissue therapy, and exercise. Oh, because now he is product or service aware, because now he was made solution aware. So, to clarify, people miss out on this. Can I highlight this anymore, circle this anymore? Miss out on people being solution aware. The client, the customer journey, they're usually problem aware. Okay, and a lot of times they're situation where they don't even know a problem. But a lot of times with what we're dealing with, and I would say probably for private practice, even a lot of times people aren't always aware of their problem, right? And so they might know they have a situation, and the situation might be, hey, I feel sad or I feel depressed. They might not understand though that's a problem. They might think, or their anxiety, they might think it's just natural, but it's not. So you need to make them now problem aware. Of like, hey, anxiety is a problem because it's impacting your day-to-day, maybe your social life, maybe the way you perform in school, whatever it may be, right? So you have to make sure that you touch on those points, and that you need to take them step by step. You cannot skip a step. So again, situation aware, problem aware, solution aware, and then your product or service aware. Solution aware, by the way, doesn't mean your specific solution, right? That's product or service aware. Solution just means what are solutions out there that can help me with my specific thing. Need to make them aware of that, and then why yours is better then goes into that product or service aware. So hopefully that clears up a whole heck of a lot. All right, so let's get into how to differentiate yourself, because this is going to be the fun part. This here, though, I'm going to take you through the customer journey. Now, I have consideration circled here because we're going to do awareness, interest, and consideration in this customer journey, but this is pretty much like top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, bottom of the funnel. Your bottom of the funnel, though, your consideration, what we go over, is going to give you a good understanding when you go through that about your packaging and your positioning. And that will be the most important, because that there will give you a good understanding of how you fit into the customer journey or how you fit into your community. So you can take that and transition all that and bleed that all into the middle and the top of the funnel, such as your ads, your website, whatever it may be, your communication, things like that. All right. So we'll touch on it now. So here. So your awareness. This is top of the funnel. Somebody's becoming aware of you. Maybe it's your ads, your website, your social media, your Google reviews. This is where they get the initial feeling though. So if your website, and I see this far too often, you can't have a website from the 1950s that barely works, and that's where people are getting in touch with you, and at the same time, you want to charge $200 a session. Not going to fly, right? Social media, good lighting, audio, things like that. If that's where people come to see you, put some time, put some effort into it. The number one thing here though is going to be Google reviews. Now, Google reviews, I can tell you this little case study here is because we've been implementing AI marketing and sales systems into clinics and for health professionals and their practices. But what we found is not only the rating, right, and the number of Google reviews, which is probably the most important, right, because that puts you up in the SEO search, but it's going to be the juiciest, the juiciness. That's literally a quote how a patient of mine said that. So I closed this patient for like a $4,000 care plan package. And he said, I was looking at 3 different clinics in the area. You all had the same number of like ratings and reviews. He said, but yours were juicier. I quote, juicier, right? And the way we utilize this AI is because it wasn't your typical automation of like, hey, leave a review. And most people will. They'll leave like a sentence or 2, or they'll leave just 5 stars, right? And no sentence. But the AI will have a conversation with them, tug on their emotional strings of like, hey, what was this progress we made? Great. Like, are you able to get back to this and that? Awesome. And so it kind of brings that up in their mind. And now when we ask for the review, it's on the top of their mind, the detail of the impact we made. And now they write about it all, right? So now we're getting paragraphs. So that's an interesting thing to note. But I say that because you need to put time and effort into it. That's going to be the value, right? The value wasn't just the number or the ratings. It was the juiciness of the review, the paragraphs that these people are writing. It's like, well, if you're looking at Google reviews and you see that all these other people have just stars or a couple sentences, but then you see this other business that has like paragraphs, that's going to mean something. It's going to be perceived as higher value. It's just that simple. So let me jump back into now the interest. So this is going to be middle of the funnel. They were made aware of you, and now they are interested. They want to learn a little bit more. So here, this is where your communication starts. Your care, though, your care starts now. You start to care now. Because in your communication, I see far too often, companies, health professionals, they get a call and they can't pick up right away, or they don't answer right away, or a whole day goes by, or they only follow up once or twice. They don't follow up more than that. They don't have a follow-up sequence. That seems like you don't care. Because to you, you're just thinking, oh, it'll help my conversions. I don't really need that stuff. But to the client, they're thinking, wow, this person doesn't care. And in fact, and this is a stat here, I believe it is somewhere between 78 to like 82% of clients will lose trust if you do not get in contact with them within the first 30 minutes. So this communication plays a huge role in the trust factor, right? The know, like, and trust. This is perceived value right here. You don't get in contact with them, they perceive you as not caring, as not trustworthy. Now, that's going to be on the nurturing communication side of things, right? So do you have follow-up? Do you have it's a perfect time to educate them. This is a perfect time when a lead or client comes in for you to literally feed them what you want them to know about you. Feed them the value you provide. And I can guarantee you, all this stuff that I talked about, the follow-up, the education, the quick reply or immediate reply, 99% of businesses, local businesses, are not doing this. You will 100% be perceived as more valuable compared to your counterparts. The other here is the consultation and booking. I tell people a lot of times what we call it is look to book. As health professionals, especially doctors, especially ones in insurance networks. And this is why I said don't be like them. You got to change that provider mindset because you're falling into the same processes and protocols as them. Those in network, a lot of times people like to copy, and almost everybody just calls the individual, oh, hey, great, what day and time work? And they just book. They just call to book. No qualification, no education, right? You need to change that. You need to change that because that insurance company, if somebody is going in under network or in network in insurance, the insurance is like a third party vouching for that provider. So that health insurance company, the provider being in network, is actually providing the trust factor on a smaller level. If you're cash-based, you do not have that luxury. You need to treat this initial contact very differently, very differently. All right, let's jump into the next thing here. Consideration, bottom of the funnel. Here we are, packaging and positioning. Again, the most important, that will transition into your communication and then transition into the copy on your website, social media ads, things like that. Your offer and then how you present yourself. And I got something here. So I don't know if you guys have, if you ever heard of Alex Hermosi. I'm gonna hold this book up. Is it blurry? Hopefully it's not too blurry. $100 million offer. So he goes over how to package, literally how to stack value, he calls it. How to create your offer, create an undeniable offer. I suggest you read it. I suggest you check it out. You just like YouTube them. Point is though, and I'll use an example. When you do an offer, so like online training business, I know within my business, a lot of times a lot of people offer free consultation. Well, for online training, I offered a blueprint and training. It was perceived as different, right? And I know when I made that change from free consultation to the blueprint and training, people started coming in. People started booking, right? Because it was something different. They were getting value out of it. People know they don't get value out of a consultation, right? Clients know they don't get value out of a free exam. Like everybody offers a free exam. What I offer in the clinic is a full body movement assessment. Different. They know they're going to get value from it. The other thing is stacking the value. Everybody just says free exam. What I say is full body movement assessment with orthopedic testing, neurologic testing, posture analysis, right? Your range of motion, muscle testing. Now, even if I labeled it, that's my typical free exam. I'm just labeling, I'm naming, I'm packaging it. So that way now when somebody reads that, sees that, or hears that, it's way more valuable than your typical free exam, right? The next is how you present yourself. This might be minor, but I do believe it makes a big impact. And it comes down to maybe the what you wear. Collared shirt. Backdrop if you're providing services online. Your backdrop, your lighting. How you speak, how you hold yourself, your posture, right? Maybe your haircut. And I say this because when we were implementing marketing and sales systems into this multinational clinic, this was like over a year when I was doing it, there were top performers and there were bottom performers. And by the way, they have like over 100 plus doctors. But the biggest thing I've found between all of them is they had the same resources, same target market, same practice, same everything. The only difference was that mindset and what that mindset kind of did for them, even on the little things. And that was they liked to dress better. They had cleaner cut hair, right? They wore their clothes better. They walked taller. They had more confidence. That will transition into everything. It's that bedside manner. Why? Because this is the same reason where you kind of just like meet people that were like somebody can sell Raid to a bug. You're just like, oh, like this person's just naturally good. And it's most likely because they probably have these non-verbal things already under control. Or they might not focus, but it just comes natural to them. By leveling that up just a little bit, it will show your value. It will be perceived more valuable. It's the same reason why you just feel more confident after getting a haircut, right? There's nothing like getting a haircut. I mean, you feel like a rock star. Same thing. Just gives you more confidence. You feel so much more better. You perceive yourself as more valuable. That's the mindset. That allows you then to push that or project that. You would know it more as a therapist, project that confidence, right? Whatever it may be. So once you get all that other stuff handled, play into that little stuff as well. Without further ado though, we're going to jump into our action steps. So action steps here. Number 1, sales pitch. Now, when you do a sales pitch, what I want you to realize, it's who you are, what you can do, how you can help. Who you are though, add an authority factor. What you do, add a differentiating factor. How you can help, add testimonials. Makes it far more impactful. Rather than, hey, my name's Dr. Kyle, I'm a chiropractor, and I help your low back. Right? But, hey, my name is Dr. Kyle. I've been a chiropractor for the past decade, for 10 years, and I help people improve their movement, become more confident, capable in their movement through root cause focused care. Just like Joe, who after 30 years, he was finally actually able to go skiing again, or Jane, who was able to go running after 15 years from just low back pain, right? More beef to it, more meat. The next is I want you to make a competitor list. So this is listing your insurance can be one of them, and then local competitors, and then Try and find ways that you can be different. It can be a simple service that you provide. It can be an angle. It can be maybe your clinic, your location is better looking, right? Or is more modern, whatever it is, but find that differentiating factor so that way you can expose it, right? You can bring it to light to people. The next is audit your communication. Do you have any communication? What's your follow-up look like? How can you provide education through your communication? Because then you can literally plant your value. You can tell people about your value. It's one of the best ways to do it. The other is build your offer. Build your offer, right? Name it, label it. Oh, another thing I forgot to mention on that was naming the system too. So one of the biggest breakthroughs I had with my online coaching program, where it's like a bulletproof and tech neck program, right? But one of the biggest things was not just naming or labeling that, it was actually naming a system of what I did. So it was a root cause based core system. When people hear that, if it's a system or a method, and you've probably seen this before too on like online coaching programs and stuff, it's your method or your program or your system, whatever it is, that's a very easy way to differentiate yourself. And when I took a coaching course years ago on this, that was one of the biggest factors that played a role. And because people can't, one, the client's going to think to themselves, oh, I've never tried that. Two, it spikes curiosity because it's like, oh, what is that? And then three, they can't compare it because nobody has that. They're not labeling it the same method. So there's no way they can compare on price or value or anything. And then last but not least here, number 5 is I want you to at least take one of these things to do this week. So take the sales pitch, make a competitor list, audit your communication, build your offer. Heck, if you can do all this week, awesome. But if anything, simplify it. Just take one and just do it. Cool? I hope this helps. Reach out, drop any comments that might help. Subscribe. I'm going to drop more videos like this. Other than that, without further ado, you got some work to do.